Most women are not human, at least not in the way we have romantically defined what human means. What operates in many of them is not the straight-line logic of masculine thought, but a different form of awareness, emotional, intuitive, symbolic. They are not broken for thinking differently. They are not defective. They are a different psychological species. And this is something to be understood, not judged. This video is not an attack, and it is not a defense. It is a dissection because both men and women are trapped inside a silent war of misunderstanding. The man analyzes, explains, rationalizes, but he cannot feel what she already knows intuitively. And the woman moves from inner layers so deep that even she herself struggles to put them into words. This is power without shape, intelligence without visible structure, a different form of humanity, more fluid, more ancient, more dangerous, and at the same time more beautiful. Today, you are about to uncover 13 forbidden secrets of the female mind. Truths that are uncomfortable, but absolutely necessary. You will finally understand why she confused you, why she pulled you in, and why she broke you. And you will also understand why. When she is aligned with her true nature, she can become almost magical. This video is for both sides. For men, so they stop being blind. For women, so they can recognize themselves without masks. Because understanding is power, and today you will understand what no one dares to say out loud. Secret 1. They are not searching for love. They are searching for continuous confirmation of their psychological existence. You assume she needs love, affection, sincerity. You believe that if you give more warmth, more care, more effort, she will respond in kind. That belief is not wrong. It is male. It is a projection of how you bond. What many women are actually seeking, often without conscious awareness, is not love itself, but the signal that they are still emotionally powerful. Love demands responsibility, depth, consistency. It asks you to stay. Validation asks for none of that. Validation is a short emotional feedback loop. Tell me I matter right now. Show me I can still move you today. Make me feel irreplaceable because tomorrow that sensation fades. This is not insecurity, it is conditioning. From an early age, many women grow inside an environment that constantly measures them visually, emotionally, socially. They learn something very specific very early. Their appearance creates reactions, their presence shifts moods, their absence creates tension. That reaction becomes power. So when you think she is asking, "Do you love me?" what she is often testing is something else entirely. Do I still affect you? Your reaction is the proof. And when the reaction disappears, the meaning disappears with it. That is why silence feels like punishment. Indifference feels like rejection. Replacement feels sudden because once the emotional mirror stops reflecting her value back to her, the connection stops serving its function. This is why things cool down right after you think you have secured her. Not because she stopped caring, but because the emotional tension collapsed. No pursuit, no uncertainty, no proof of impact. The psychological game ends, and the nervous system looks for a new arena. Is it cruel? From the outside, yes. But internally, it follows a clear emotional logic. What does not stimulate decays? What does not generate response losses relevance? And before you jump to the conclusion that women are never satisfied, stop. This is not about hunger. It is about movement, about knowing they can still influence, still shift energy, still matter. Some women do not crave love in the romantic sense. They crave impact. And if they cannot generate that impact with you, they will unconsciously seek it where they feel alive again. Does this feel familiar? Have you ever given genuine love and still watched her drift away? If so, you are not lacking effort. You are speaking the wrong emotional language. Now listen carefully. What if I told you that many women do not confuse men by accident, but by using contradiction as a psychological tether? Let us move to Secret 2. Secret 2, they adapt emotionally faster than you, and that speed is not accidental. You assume you have the advantage because you think logically, because you analyze, because you slow things down to understand them. You believe emotional control comes from structure and reason. What you miss is this. They do not need logic to move quickly on an emotional level. While you are still replaying the conversation, still asking yourself what went wrong. still trying to make sense of the shift. She has already recalibrated internally. She has already emotionally repositioned herself. She has already updated her narrative, not because she did not feel, but because her survival historically depended on speed of emotional adaptation, not depth of emotional attachment. For thousands of years, hesitation was dangerous. Attachment to the wrong situation was fatal. So, the female nervous system evolved to detach, reattach, and reorient faster than the male one. That is why a woman can end a relationship today and appear emotionally light tomorrow. Not because you meant nothing, but because she processed the loss before you even realized the loss was coming. Pain does not freeze her, it reshapes her, and that is not emotional coldness. It is emotional plasticity, the ability to reorganize inner reality quickly under pressure. Many men do not have this. They were raised to understand first, then feel, to analyze before acting, to sit inside emotion until it makes sense. Women are inverted. They feel first. They move first. They survive first. Understanding comes later, if it comes at all. This difference becomes brutal inside relationships. You stay bonded to the memory, to the unanswered message, to the emotional vacuum she left behind. You are still orienting yourself around what was. She is already responding to what is new signals, new feedback, new emotional data. Her friends recalibrate her perception. Her environment reframes the story. Her sense of social positioning updates her emotional priorities. And if something no longer fits what her system needs today, it is removed. No drama, no explanation, just emotional pruning. Her flexibility becomes a weapon, not against you specifically, but against stagnation. She can dismantle and rebuild her emotional world without looking back if it keeps her internally regulated or externally advantaged. And you are left asking the same question men have asked for centuries. How can someone move on so fast while I am still broken? If this resonates, write it in the comments. Your story will wake others up because now we go even deeper. Did you know that many women can detect your social insecurity in seconds without you speaking a single word? Let us move to Secret 3. Secret 3, emotional contradiction is not an accident. It is her native operating system. You try to understand her through logic, but that is exactly why you lose balance. One day, she pulls you close. The next day, she withdraws. She tells you she cares, then treats you with distance. She demands clarity, yet answers with ambiguity. You think this is inconsistency. It is not. It is structure. And more importantly, it is one of the most refined tools of emotional control. Contradiction keeps power on her side. Because while you are confused, she is calm. While you are trying to define the relationship, she is shifting the frame. Clarity would place both of you on equal ground. Consistency would reduce tension. Predictability would remove leverage, and leverage is what keeps desire alive. If she gives you full clarity, she loses mystery. If she becomes fully coherent, she loses psychological gravity. And if you stop fearing loss, she loses influence. So the message becomes double-layered. I want you here, but not so comfortable that you stop orbiting me. This is not always cruelty, and it is not always conscious. It is a different form of intelligence, one that measures value through emotional investment, not words. Contradiction forces you to invest without being asked, because the moment you react to silence, panic over delayed replies, or argue to resolve inconsistencies, you reveal something critical. You are still inside the field. You are still feeding energy. You are still chasing certainty. And in any psychological dynamic, the one who chases clarity automatically gives power to the one who withholds it. Contradiction keeps emotional tension alive. And emotional tension is what many women unconsciously associate with attraction, importance, and power. No contradiction leads to routine. Routine leads to emotional flattening. And flattening leads to disconnection. That is why when a woman feels bored, insecure, or unseen, she often creates friction where none existed. She mixes signals, changes tone, says one thing, does another. Not to hurt you, but to feel that her presence still moves you, that she still has weight in your emotional world. Has this happened to you? Were you trapped between affection and punishment, between warmth and withdrawal? Write it in the comments. Let others see they were not alone, because now we go even deeper. What if I told you that some women can detect your social position, insecurity, and emotional need within seconds without you saying a single word? Secret 4 is coming. Secret 4, they can read your social vulnerability in a single glance. You do not need to speak. You do not need to explain your past. You do not need to list achievements. By the time you think the interaction has started, her nervous system has already made a preliminary judgment. In the first few seconds, without your awareness, her emotional radar scans your posture, your movement speed, your eye contact, your tension levels, your breathing rhythm. From that, she extracts something you never consciously offered. Your position. Are you grounded or seeking, relaxed or performing, centered or hoping to be chosen, comfortable with silence or afraid of it? She reads all of it, and if it serves her interests, she adapts accordingly. This is not intuition in a mystical sense. It is social biology refined through thousands of years of selective pressure. In ancestral environments, a woman could not afford to choose wrong. Emotional instability meant danger. Weak positioning meant exposure. Poor judgment meant extinction. For her and her offspring. So, the female psyche evolved a hypersensitive calibration system, a kind of sixth sense tuned not to words, but to energy alignment. An emotionally attuned woman does not need your resume. She knows where you stand in the hierarchy by how you enter a room, how others adjust around you, how you handle attention and indifference. And when she detects vulnerability, it is instantly categorized either as weakness or as opportunity. Not every woman will exploit it, but many will intuitively recognize something critical. You will give more than you receive. You will invest faster. You will tolerate imbalance longer. They sense emotional hunger, the need to prove, the need to be chosen. And within female psychology, this is leverage. A man who craves validation is easier to shape, easier to keep emotionally engaged, easier to extract energy from without giving much back. That is why the good guy often suffers the most. Not because he lacks value, but because his openness is misread as structural weakness, not integrity. This is not about becoming cold or unreachable. It is about not stepping into the dynamic already collapsed. Because if she senses that your self-worth depends on her attention, she will test that dependency. She will shift, withdraw, apply pressure. And if you cannot hold your center, she will unconsciously lose respect and then break the bond. Have you ever felt like a woman understood you instantly and then began playing the dynamic from a position of advantage? Write it in the comments. Your story may reflect something many others have lived but never understood. And now we reach one of the most uncomfortable truths of all. Did you know that when a woman says, "I love you," it does not always mean love. Sometimes it means power over you. Secret 5, "I love you" is not always a promise. Sometimes it is a mechanism. When a man says, "I love you," he usually seals an internal contract. It is loyalty, continuity, an emotional anchor he intends to hold. But when many women say, "I love you," the function can be very different. Often it is not an expression of bonding. It is a signal, a way to secure emotional access, a way to stabilize influence, a way to reassert position. Because from the feminine psychological lens, "I love you" can operate as a trigger, not a vow. Ask yourself this: why does it appear exactly when you start pulling away? Why does it surface right after distance, coldness?
Structure. Human desire gravitates toward what does not kneel. No one respects what stays without conditions. No one chases what cannot be lost. If you can walk away at the right moment, even while wanting to stay, the other person begins to fear losing you. And fear, when handled with precision, turns into respect, attraction, and dependence. That is why this law is internal warfare. The one who can leave without trembling sets the emotional tempo. You decide when to appear. You decide when to withdraw, not as punishment but as a declaration of value. You remain when there is reciprocity. You exit when there is manipulation. And when you leave, you do not beg. You do not explain. You do not collapse. You impose. Your absence does not plead. It marks. Your withdrawal does not seek reaction. It establishes hierarchy. Because real power is not in staying. It is in knowing how to leave without turning into dust. Raw example. You are involved with someone who pulls you close then pushes you away, who replies on their terms, who keeps you in a constant state of testing. Most people adapt, they shrink, they chase. You do not. You send one final message, measured, calm, dignified, and then you disappear. No threats, no speeches, no drama. You simply return to your own axis and allow silence and absence to do the work. The other person will feel that void like a blade, because you were a presence with weight, and now you are an absence with edge. When this law integrates into your emotional system, you become invulnerable. Not because you stop feeling, but because you stop depending. You can love, you can desire, you can commit without sacrificing your ability to disconnect tactically, and that turns you into a rare type of person. Someone who controls rhythm without raising their voice. Someone who can shake another person simply by not replying. Someone who makes others return not because they asked, but because silence forced the search. You no longer react to abandonment. You weaponize it. You no longer suffer distance. You manufacture it. You are no longer the one who fears loss. You are the one who leaves carrying something the other person cannot replace. Because you were never just another presence. You were the presence that never begged, and that is never forgotten. That is the scar left by someone who can walk away without trembling. That is the emotional architecture of dominance. That is the new skin no one will ever tear again. Law 11. The one who seeks validation loses position. The moment you need to be loved, you become easy to control. Sigmund Freud reinterpreted. Have you ever caught yourself dissecting every word before sending it? Calculating your silences, adjusting your tone, measuring your gestures, all for one purpose: to be accepted. Have you ever wondered if you were too distant, too intense, too much yourself? Then you already understand what it means to live under the rule of validation. You know what it feels like to exist with your identity hostage inside someone else's perception. Because the moment your behavior is designed to please, your identity no longer belongs to you. And here is the brutal irony. You believe this makes you better, more flexible, more attentive, more considerate, more empathetic. You believe it increases your value. The truth is darker. The more you crave approval, the further you drift from respect. Because respect is not born from accommodation. It is born from firmness. And when the other person senses that your actions are not driven by expression but by acceptance, they unconsciously move above you. They test your limits. They push your boundaries. They provoke reactions. Because no one respects someone who is willing to reshape himself just to be liked. Here is the deeper problem. Your value stops being internal. It becomes outsourced. If they reply quickly, you relax. If they go silent, you spiral. If they praise you, you rise. If they criticize you, you collapse. You are no longer living. You are responding. You are no longer choosing. You are waiting. And in that emotional dependence, you surrender power without resistance. Because the one who needs approval will accept almost any condition just to avoid rejection. That is why this law cuts like a blade. The one who seeks validation loses position. Your posture must not be built on the hunger to be accepted, but on the solidity of being unmoved. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be a reference point. And that only becomes possible when you can withstand judgment, silence, and disapproval without betraying yourself. When you can say what you think without diluting it to protect comfort. When you can leave a conversation without guilt pulling you back. Because the one who does not need to be liked already controls the frame. Practical example. You are speaking with someone who becomes unsettled by your calm, by your lack of need. They say you are always so cold. Your instinct wants to explain.
The moment you become emotionally complete without them, their influence collapses. Because if you no longer need them to regulate your emotions, what role do they play? Where does their power come from? This is rarely conscious cruelty. Most of the time, it is not even calculated. But deep inside the female psyche, there is a reflexive discomfort when a man stops being emotionally available, when he stops chasing, when he stops reacting, when he stops revolving. And that is when disruption begins. Not when you are failing, but when you are growing. Right when you start moving forward, when your focus shifts inward, when your nervous system stabilizes, they reappear. A message, a provocation, a reminder, often wrapped in guilt. You have changed. I miss the old you. It hurts to see you like this. These are not statements of care. They are attempts to re-enter your emotional field. Not because they want to see you thriving, but because they cannot tolerate losing the psychological space they once occupied inside you. So conflict is introduced. Meaningless arguments, false accusations, emotional withdrawal when you open up, sudden warmth when you finally detach. It is not random, it is regulation through instability. Because at a deep level, consciously or not, they understand this. An unstable man is adaptable, an anxious man is generous. A man seeking peace will overgive just to restore emotional equilibrium, and that equilibrium is never neutral. It is managed like chess pieces on an emotional board. And what happens when you react? You explain, you argue, you try to resolve, you believe clarity will free you. But every move only tightens the bond because every word proves you still care, still invest, still orbit. You think you are fixing the dynamic. In reality, you are feeding it. This is not a war between men and women, it is a map of emotional strategies. Yes, men can do this too, but within the feminine psychological domain, this ability to create emotional addiction, quiet, subtle, without force or threat, is an art form. And most men do not recognize it until they are already exhausted, confused, and broken. Have you ever noticed that every time you were finally doing well, she returned only to destabilize you again? Write it below. You are not alone. Now open your eyes because what comes next cannot be explained. It can only be felt. Female intuition as a form of superior intelligence. Let us move to Secret 8. Secret 8. Her intuition is not emotion. It is compressed intelligence. You underestimate it because she cannot verbalize it, because she does not present evidence, because when you ask, why do you think that, she answers, I do not know, I just feel it, and that is where you commit a fatal cognitive error. You assume that what cannot be explained cannot be trusted, but her intuition does not operate through language. It operates through pattern recognition, and in that domain, she has an evolutionary advantage you do not. Female intuition is not logic-based intelligence. It is environmental intelligence, a system designed to read reality without stopping to name it. Micro delays in speech, breathing shifts, eye tension, body orientation, silences that last half a second too long. Tone changes so subtle you register them only subconsciously. She registers all of it. Her body is the sensor. Her emotions are the processor. She does not analyze. She detects. That is why when she says something feels wrong about him, she is often correct, even if she cannot justify it in words. This ability is ancient. For most of human history, women were tasked with two things: protecting vulnerable offspring and navigating fragile social alliances. Men adapted toward confrontation and action. Women adapted toward anticipation. She did not survive by striking first. She survived by sensing first, observing, feeling, predicting. That is why her intuition functions like an emotional radar. She knows when you are doubting yourself. She knows when your confidence is leaking. She knows when another woman has entered your inner world. She knows when your energy is fading before you know it. And if it serves her interests, she will use that information not with cruelty, but with precision. That is why by the time you start realizing something has shifted, she has already reached a conclusion. She sensed the decline before it appeared. She felt the betrayal before it happened. She emotionally processed the loss before you intellectually registered the threat. While you are searching for reasons, she is already repositioning. She changes tone, creates distance, redirects her attention, withdraws warmth because her intelligence does not require coherence. It requires flow, and once the flow breaks, the bond destabilizes. This intuitive capacity is not only defensive, it is also offensive. An intuitive woman can seduce without words, destabilize confidence with a single look, generate guilt, desire, jealousy, or tenderness through gestures calibrated at the instinctual level. Because while you are thinking about what to say next, she is feeling what you are thinking. Has this happened to you? Did a simple sentence, one you could not logically explain, hit deeper than anything dramatic ever did? She sensed something before you consciously knew it existed. Write it in the comments. Your experience may articulate a truth many still refuse to acknowledge. Because now we move into something even more uncomfortable. Many women are not observing you out of curiosity. They are studying you as a potential threat that must be understood and possibly controlled. Secret 9 is coming. Secret 9. She studies you as a potential threat long before she sees you as a potential partner. You do not notice it, but from the very first interaction, data collection has already begun. Not consciously, not dramatically, silently. The way you speak when you are relaxed, the way your tone shifts under pressure. How you treat people who cannot offer you anything. How you react when you are ignored, challenged, or slightly rejected. You think you are getting to know each other. In reality, you are being assessed. Because while you believe you are seducing her, she is scanning you as one of 4 possibilities. An ally, a provider, a tool, or a danger. This does not come from paranoia. It comes from evolutionary necessity. For most of human history, choosing the wrong man was not just disappointing. It was catastrophic. It could mean violence, abandonment, loss of protection, loss of resources, public humiliation, social isolation. So the female psyche evolved into a silent risk evaluation system. While you smile, she watches for contradictions. While you try to impress, she looks for fractures. While you perform confidence, she checks whether it collapses under stress. Her internal questions are never romantic. Are you emotionally stable? Do you regulate yourself or do others regulate you? Can you protect or do you need protection? Are you dominant by nature or dominant only when things go your way? And the most important question of all, how much power do I have over this man? That is why confrontation is rarely direct. Instead, you are tested. Ambiguous situations appear. Boundaries blur. Mixed signals surface. Not to confuse you, but to observe you. She tells you half a story and waits. She withholds clarity and watches your nervous system react. She introduces jealousy not to hurt you, but to measure whether you fracture or remain centered. This is not cruelty. It is calibration. She is not asking, do I like him? She is asking, is he safe or is he controllable? And this assessment does not stop when the relationship begins. It intensifies because now she has access to deeper layers. Your habits, your emotional reflexes, your silence, your stress patterns. And if she discovers something critical that she can emotionally control you, she will. Not because she is evil, but because control equals security. If you are emotionally aligned with her needs, reactive to her moods, dependent on her validation, you are no longer a threat. You are already domesticated. And once the evaluation phase ends, only 2 outcomes remain. Either you are kept as a useful piece within her emotional structure, or you are quietly discarded as an unnecessary risk. And the most unsettling part, you often never realize you are being examined at all. Have you ever felt like your entire relationship was a series of hidden tests? That every small mistake was remembered, stored, and later weaponized? Write it in the comments. What happened to you has happened to far more men than you think. Now prepare yourself because what comes next is one of the most uncomfortable truths of all. What if I told you that a woman can simulate deep emotional connection not to bond with you, but to keep you as a backup emotional system? Secret 10 comes in strong. Secret 10. They have a brutal ability to manufacture connection. There is a moment when you are convinced everything is real. The way she looks at you, steady, intentional, the softness in her voice, the long messages that feel thoughtful, the late night I miss you texts that arrive when you least expect them. It feels intimate, almost sacred, like something rare. But what most men never realize is this. Many women, not all, but those who understand emotional dynamics can recreate the feeling of connection without experiencing attachment. Not because they are empty, not because they are cruel, but because they understand a dangerous principle. Connection is power when it is asymmetric. When you feel deeply connected and she does not, she controls the axis of the relationship. She decides when closeness appears, when distance is introduced, when warmth rewards you, when coldness disciplines you. And she knows something else. If you believe the bond is special, you will excuse inconsistency. You will tolerate imbalance. You will wait longer than logic allows. So she feeds you measured doses of intimacy, prolonged eye contact, Confessions that stop before commitment. Words that sound personal but promise nothing. Just enough to keep you suspended. Uncertain whether you are chosen or quietly competing. This is the cruelest layer. Connection has a grammar, and that grammar can be learned and copied. She mirrors your emotional language, repeats your phrases, aligns with your tastes, laughs at precisely the right moment. Everything feels synchronized, but while you are sinking into meaning, she is calculating position. How emotionally invested is he? How useful is this bond right now? How long can I maintain access without cost? And when she disappears without explanation, it is not because the bond collapsed. It is because the bond was one-sided. It lived inside you. She only occupied the role as long as it served her stability, options, or ego. And here is the most perverse truth. Often that simulated connection is not designed to keep you now. It is designed to store you as a backup, an emotional reserve, a future safety net. The classic just in case. She keeps you warm, responsive, emotionally available. She does not choose you, but she does not release you either. She does not love you, but she allows you to believe she might. She offers no future, yet quietly blocks your freedom. Because if one day her world collapses, you will still be there, believing what you felt was mutual. Has this happened to you? Did you feel something profound for someone who mirrored it perfectly, only to vanish as if nothing ever existed? Write it below. This truth is rarely spoken, but it has been lived by more men than anyone admits. Now listen carefully. What comes next is not a moral flaw, not culture, not coincidence. It is biological programming. Hypergamy. Let us move to Secret 11. Secret 11. Hypergamy is not malice. It is evolutionary mathematics. Most people get uncomfortable when they hear the word hypergamy. They reduce it to shallow ambition, as if women were only chasing money, titles, or social clout. That interpretation is childish. The reality is far more ancient and far more ruthless. Hypergamy is not a conscious decision. It is not a moral position. It is a survival algorithm etched into the deepest layers of female biology. For most of human history, a woman who chose the wrong man did not just suffer emotionally. She died, or her children did. Weakness meant exposure. Instability meant danger. Incoherence meant extinction. So, female instincts were refined across generations to filter for one thing above all else: advantage. The man most capable of increasing survival odds physically, socially, emotionally. That instinct did not disappear. It evolved. Today, it wears modern disguises: social media, romantic language, casual conversations, late-night messages. But the mechanism is the same. That is why a woman can care about you, desire you, share intimacy with you, and still feel unease when she senses another man carries greater value. And value is not limited to money. It can be status, social gravity, leadership, influence, emotional steadiness, or simply a more dominant internal frame. The moment she perceives that you no longer represent an upgrade in her emotional or social environment, disconnection begins, not consciously, not verbally, somatically. She does not explain it. She does not debate it. She feels the shift and adjusts accordingly. Here is the part most men cannot accept. She does not measure you by what you gave. She measures you by what you represent. Now you may have been her foundation for years, but the instant her internal hierarchy questions your current position. Comparison activates, and comparison is corrosive. Once it begins, the bond erodes from the inside out. This is not about hating women. It is about understanding the terrain you are standing on. You are not in a moral game. You are in a dynamic valuation system. And in that system, value is not fixed. If you stop updating it, you do not get punished. You get replaced. Not because you failed, but because her nature is oriented toward ascent, optimization, and advantage. Even when that ascent destroys something that once felt perfect. Did she replace you with someone who seemed to carry more presence, more dominance, more momentum? Did it feel like everything you gave suddenly lost all meaning the moment another figure entered her radar? Write it in the comments. This is the law no one wants to acknowledge, but every man eventually encounters. And now we go even deeper, because some women do not just leave you, they drain you without touch, without words, and leave you empty without understanding how it happened. Let us move to Secret 12. Secret 12. They can drain your energy without saying a single word. You have experienced this. You leave a conversation with her feeling heavy, disoriented, emotionally exhausted, no argument, no raised voices, no obvious drama, and yet something inside you feels empty. She took your energy without touching you, without asking, without you even realizing it was happening. This is not imagination. It is far more common than men are taught to recognize. Many women possess an instinctive ability to pull attention, focus, and emotional effort toward themselves simply by existing in your emotional field. Not mysticism, not fantasy, psychological gravity. Their nervous system learned early that male attention equals safety, validation, and leverage. So when you step into her emotional narrative, when you start listening too closely, trying to understand her moods, trying to fix what she never asked you to fix, trying to be enough, you cross an invisible boundary. You enter her magnetic field. Physical contact is not required. Energy is lost the moment you become emotionally available without reciprocity. The moment you try to earn connection, the moment you make her emotional state your responsibility, she does not need to give anything back. Your effort alone fuels her sense of importance. Your concern feeds her perception of control. Your availability stabilizes her emotional world. And here is the part most men cannot accept. Often this is not intentional. She is not plotting. She is not consciously extracting. She is responding to a pattern she learned very young. Her value increases when others revolve around her. So while you are offering time, attention, empathy, solutions, support, you receive nothing that replenishes you. No grounding, no clarity, no emotional nourishment, only increased demand. You believe that if you give more, you will finally reach equilibrium. But what you do not see is this. She is not engaging with you for who you are. She is engaging with the effect you produce, the reflection of her power over your nervous system, submission disguised as love. You find them only when you become a man who does not need them to feel whole, but chooses them from strength. So ask yourself this. Do you want to keep reacting, or do you want to start choosing? Do you want to protect your energy, raise your value, and create attraction from inner solidity, not from emotional hunger? Remember this final truth. The man who understands how the female mind works stops suffering over women and starts choosing from power. We will meet again in the next one.